everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. It's time I introduce you to another member of our Mopar family. This here is our 2004 PT Cruiser GT with the Dream Cruiser 3 package on it. I've always loved my little front wheel drive Mopars. We've had everything. Everything you can imagine. Omnis, K-Cars, Shadows, Daytonas, and we just went through the generations. Caravans, and then Neons. And then when the PT Cruiser came out in 2001, I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life, and I wanted one. So we went out and I think I rented one for a weekend. At the time I was driving 2000... was I driving a 2000 Neon? I guess, because these came out in 01. And I liked the car, but it needed, the one I had anyway that I rented, it needed two things. It needed a 5-speed and it needed a turbo. The 5-speed was available, but there was no turbo. They fixed that in 2003 when two things came out. The PT Cruiser GT and the PT Cruiser Turbo, which was, we call it the Turbo Light. So the GT was 230 horsepower, the Turbo Light was 180. And they were absolutely identical, 100%. The only difference was the tune. And the SRT4 Neon also came out at the tail end of 2003, but that's a whole nother story. All of them share the same engine. So anyway, the PT Cruiser through its life, they were always, as a marketing thing, spitting out special packages. You know, they had I think they had one called the Boulevard. They had the Route 66. They had these Dream Cruisers. They had all kinds of things. The first Dream Cruiser came out in 2002. It was the Dream Cruiser Series 1, which was Inca Gold with a funky gold and yellow and beige interior, but it only had the naturally aspirated engine. In 2003, the Dream Cruiser Series 2 was a color they called Tangerine Dream, which is kind of a metallic burnt orange with a matching interior, and that one had the high output turbo engine in it. This one here, the Dream Cruiser Series 3, came in 2004, and these are the first ones that actually had sequential VINs. This particular one is number 392. That's a good Mopar number. Of 1,309 of them built in total. We'll get into the actual details of this package in a second. But basically these cars, they came fully decked. There was only two options you had on them. You had a choice of manual or automatic. And you had a choice of 6-disc in-dash CD changer or RB1 navigation. That was it. Those were the only options on the whole car. This one is a stick shift with the 6-pack CD changer. So the components of the Dream Cruiser Series 3 package are this. They started out, the cars were all midnight blue. They came down the assembly line. There goes my neighbor Sam. They were painted midnight blue, and then they were taken off the line. They were taped up, and the silver on the bottom was done by hand. You can see, if you really look closely, you can actually see a couple of thin spots here and there in the silver. And if you take the grill out of this car, there's actually still bits of the original masking tape stuck on the back side of the bumper. I left them there. So you got your two-tone paint. You got the chrome package on it, which is the chrome bars on the grill. They didn't all come with that. The chrome lower body side molding and chrome 17-inch 5-spoke rims. On the inside, it's got a unique interior. These colors, this palette, whatever you want to call it, was not available on any other PT Cruiser, only the Dream Cruiser Series 3. The two-tone gray leather seats. And if you'll notice, it's really hard to notice, but if I stand behind here, all the glass in this car is Solextra, which means it's tinted blue. If you can see my shirt here, over here it's gray, and over here it's got like a bluish tinge to it. This is when Chrysler was owned by Daimler-Benz, and the blue glass apparently in Europe is a big thing. So this car has all blue glass, which I thought was pretty unique. until my windshield got taken out, and I had to wait 6 weeks for the piece of glass to come from Germany. And thinking back to then, I probably should have bought a spare one and put it in my attic. Touch wood. I hope we never need another windshield. I did find one of these in a wrecking yard one time, and the windshield had already been changed to a green one. These sill plates are unique to the Dream Cruiser, and you can see here they were poorly made, and over the years the weather has gotten to this one a little bit. It's sad, but that's what happens. Lucky for me, one of these days I'm going to pop these off. I've got actually a pair of accessory ones that Chrysler used to sell through their parts catalog, and they got PT Cruiser in a really cool script, so I will pop those on. They're just on with little clips. Now we're going to start with all the things I've done to this car. It's not crazily modified like a lot of guys do. They go pretty hardcore with the performance stuff and customizing them. I chose to keep this kind of just low key, but you know, I did a few tweaks to make it my own. So under the hood here, what we've got, a lot of guys would put a cold air intake on. What I chose to do, it's got a gutted stock air box and drop-in K&N filter in it. Another thing that everybody was doing on the earlier ones, in 2005, the turbo engine came with the new revised plastic intake manifold. The debate rages whether the plastic intake manifold is better than the aluminum one or not, but I just thought it looked nice. So I bought everything at the dealer and put the plastic intake manifold on it. I've upgraded the ignition. It's got nice spark plugs and wires on it. And the other thing I did, it has an automatic throttle body on it. The automatic and manual throttle bodies are the same bore diameter, but the manual one has a little restriction in it. Apparently it's to reduce the snap when you hit the gas. Why would you want to reduce that? Anyway, that's what we've done under the hood. Up front here, all I did was I kind of modified the front license plate holder a little bit. I trimmed the edges off and put this smoke cover with the chrome frame around it, and all the lighting on the front is upgraded. It's the factory housings, but with upgraded bulbs in them. Inside, we just did a kind of a few little things. I added a boost gauge from an SRT4. Lucky for us, they actually have the same background and everything on the dash. So the SRT4 dash matches the PT Cruiser GT dash, so it doesn't look out of place. I don't like those pillar pods with all the gauges up here. I'm just not a fan of that. And the only gauge I really wanted in here was a boost gauge, so that's what we did. I've put a XM radio in it, and it's got a Hurst short throw shifter Competition Plus with urethane bushings in both ends of the cables. It's pretty sporty to drive. We've got a few goodies here at the back too. In here, there's usually a little cubby in here, but we've installed a subwoofer in there. It was a kit you used to buy right from Chrysler, so it's like a all factory engineered subwoofer built right into the car. Another thing we did, a big difference between the PT Cruiser GT and the SRT4 Neon is the SRT4 Neon had basically a straight pipe exhaust from the factory. All it had was a little resonator kind of underneath the console about halfway back, and those things sounded mean. The PT Cruiser GT, I guess because the demographic they figured they would sell them to, it had a quiet exhaust. Right here under this corner of the car, it had a great big old muffler about this big. Well, I didn't like that, so when I first got it, the first thing I did was saw the exhaust off, and I made a Y pipe. I mimicked the SRT4 exhaust as close as I could. So here we've got a couple of, they're just resonated hooker tips, and I did the same thing halfway back. I put a little 18-inch glass pack just to mellow it out a bit, and I'll fire it up. You can see how it sounds. Ready? Sounds pretty good, I think. And right now, I have to admit, it's running on 3-year-old gas. I looked at my little book in the glove box. The last time I put gas in it was August of 2019. But I took the cap off, and it still smells pretty good. The newer cars, I guess because the fuel system in them is like literally completely sealed, so the atmosphere doesn't get at the gas. It doesn't go skunky in these as fast as it does in old cars and tractors, I'll tell you that. I could leave a tank full of gas in a tractor up there for 8 months or a year, and it just turns to shellac. It's terrible. A couple of other things I've done on the back is I put a factory trailer hitch on it. Don't ask me why. Back when I first bought this thing, this was like, it wasn't a toy, it was just my car. And sometimes I had to tow my little tiny trailer around if I was going to the dump or something. So it's got a factory hitch on it. Another thing I did was, these are not the original lights. How these things came from the factory, on our side of the Atlantic anyway. This is a reflector, and this here is the reverse light. So what I wanted a rear fog light, right? So the ones in Europe came with rear fog lights. So I went on eBay and I bought a pair from Europe. So what happens is, this one is the reverse light, and this one is the rear fog light. Even though this one's red, don't ask me how. When you turn it on, it turns white. So there's our rear fog light, and if we look at the other one, I'll pop it in reverse, and the reverse light should come on. Another thing I did to it, underneath stuff, it's got, I put some drilled and slotted rotors on it the last time it needed a brake job, and from the car sitting around, they've gotten a little raunchy. What are you going to do? I'll get them cleaned up. Another thing I did to it, after, I think 2001 and 2002, these cars could come with a rear sway bar, and then it went away. So I got a rear sway bar off 2002, and I installed it on this. If you find the rear sway bar in a junkyard, grab it. Every year of PT Cruiser has all the holes and everything. It just literally bolts on. It takes you longer to jack up the car than it takes to install the bar. And at the front here, I installed a polyurethane bushing kit in the front control arms and the front sway bar to get the front end of it as tight as I can. It makes the ride a little more harsh, but it's really crisp. I also replaced the upper and lower dog bones that keep the engine from rocking. The factory ones have really mushy bushings in them that always rip. So I replaced them with these aftermarket ones that have a pretty substantial polyurethane bushing in them. All right, so let's take it for a little spin. This, another difference between the PT GT and the SRT4 Neon, and even the other Neons for that matter, is the gearing. You start with like a Neon RT, the naturally aspirated 2-liter one. It's got like a 394 final drive, or a gear ratio. The PT Cruiser GT has a 323, and the SRT4 Neon is a 355. So this is actually straight line performance. It can't match the SRT4 Neon, and the car's a little bit heavier. But man, it sure is nice cruising on the highway. We'll just run up here to the golf course entrance and turn around. Here it is here. This is such a fun little car to drive. I know PT Cruisers for a lot of people are, they can't stand them, and they're a kind of a love it or hate it thing with everybody. I'm under the category of love it. And it goes like a scalded cat. Okay, well, that's it for our PT Cruiser video. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll come back and see us again. I know these cars are really bloodsucker. These cars, a lot of people hate them. They had a reputation of being a piece of junk. And, well, I'm not going to comment on that because I just love these little front-wheel drive Mopars. If it has 4 wheels and says Chrysler on it, I like it. That's just how it goes. Anyway, next time we'll have something else to show you. And until then, this is Kevin checking out from the Claremont Classic Garage. Thanks and so long.